Hey, so I just wanted to do a quick little filler episode today. I just wanted to get at a movie that I watched recently, Paterson. Now this movie is a few years old, so maybe it's old news, maybe nobody cares, but I just wanted to talk about it because I kind of connected with it quite a lot. And so I just wanted to talk about why I think it matters and what it was trying to say. So if you haven't seen it, Paterson is about a normal guy with a normal job just doing normal things, like everyone else. It's a movie where not much happens. It's quite uneventful. And it's about an everyday person, like everyone, like you, like me, just going about his day. The difference is, or the thing that's maybe not so different, is that he writes poetry every day. And this may be what the film is trying to say, that things like this aren't so different, that there's beauty in the everyday, that people have their passions, and that their work aren't always magnificent showpieces to be gazed upon. Very much the case with the titular character of Paterson, who kind of just keeps it to himself. So here we see hints of that. We get to see as he goes about his day writing rough pieces of poetry when the time of freedom or the inspiration comes. Throughout the movie we see little snippets of paragraphs every so often of his writing, and I really like these scenes of when he is in the actual process of writing. They come off as little rough versions of what they'll later become. At first he's not really sure what direction they're going to go in, and we see that as he rewrites and retries and crafts something from nothing. He figures out how to word things and what order they should go in and stuff like that. It's a patient, calm process that just seems natural and very relatable. We see as Paterson's poems develop and get better, more coherent. It's an interesting look at how poetry is written, particularly for someone like me who I'm not really into poetry very much. I don't super get it, if you know what I mean. When I read something that's cool though, I can appreciate it. I like it, but for one of those comes 10 that I just don't get. It was interesting to learn kind of how a poet thinks. But really what I want to get at with this movie is what I think it's trying to say, the message behind it. For one, I think that Paterson was trying to say that artists are all around us. Even the person that you'd least suspect probably has at least somewhat of an interest in at least some version of the arts. For instance, the guy in the movie Paterson is a bus driver, and he's not very vocal about that side of him, his poetry. It's really just for him. And I kind of really respect that, and even though I'm inherently completely the opposite, being on YouTube, I want to get as much attention as I can get, I think that it's kind of noble to not desire that. Another point to the movie, I believe, is that it's trying to say that you should work at your art or your hobby or whatever. I think it's trying to say that we should all try to make it, because, you know, some people do make it. And we can see that with the wife of Paterson, Laura. Throughout the movie, she goes through all these different interests. She's a dreamer. You can see that. You can see she has ambition, but not for anything too specific. Like, she's not sure where she wants to focus that heavy drive. She just wants to make it on her own, doing something, whatever that is. You know, she tries playing guitar, she tries baking. I think that's all she tries in the actual movie, but you get the idea that this isn't a one-off. She's always trying something new. She can't really decide, but she's creative and wants to express herself creatively, but not with anything specific. Whereas Paterson, the character, he likes poetry, and that's that. And I like this contrast between the two characters where Laura wants to make something of herself, wants to be known, wants to be successful in some way, for whatever that is, for whatever she creates. And Paterson, though, is definitive about what he likes and is, from what I gather, very good at his interests. And I think that the intention for Laura being a character at all was to show us that she has passions for him. She sees something in him, she believes in him, and wants to push him to the success that she desires as well. So she urges him to share his poetry with the world as she would. And she stresses that he deserves others to hear his voice, that the world deserves his words. But he always says no, he doesn't want to, he can't really be bothered, he doesn't really care to. What he does isn't about sharing it with the world, it's just for him. He's a solitary artist, and that's just that. It's just for the joy of doing it. It's not for success, it's not for fame, it's not for recognition. And there's a real respectability to that. I also think that there's a real tragedy to that, and a realness to that. I think a lot of people in the world are often scared to share what they create, what they're passionate about. And I think that the movie kind of shows that that's a shame. And I also think that the movie shows that people can have that drive, can have that passion, as we see in Laura, and still unfortunately have nothing to show for it, not gain anything out of it. And that people like Laura can be jealous of these people like Paterson just doing what they're doing for them. The ability to look at things as they come in that way and not what they could be. I think that Laura probably wishes that she was content like Paterson. I do. But I think both sides of the argument are showcased here, and I think that the movie kind of does its best to stand in between, as it also argues that if you're a person like Paterson who keeps their art private, that's fine and respectable and totally up to you, it's your choice, but that if you think that you're ever going to become the other type of person who wants to share their work, that you should, well, be careful, because your dog might eat all your fucking stuff. I think Paterson as a movie has a huge appreciation for the arts, and its intentions are to celebrate that. And I just appreciate that. That's not something that you always see in movies, you know? Often you just see action movies kicking ass, CGI monsters and whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. But I found that Paterson was kind of the antithesis to action movies and like an antidote to the modern blockbuster. And I really liked it. I think that it was really patient. I think it was really interesting despite it just being about a guy going about his day and not much else. No catastrophic events ever happen or anything like that, but I thought it was more exciting than, well, a lot of movies, to be honest. I was never bored for a second. I don't think that this is a boring movie at all. It's just a very well done representation of life.